So we're going to talk about ALICE. It's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. And I'll go into each one of those in detail here in a little bit. So we're going to talk about violent intruders. We're going to have a frank discussion about your safety. So if you need to step outside the room, we're going to listen to a 911 call from Columbine High School. You need to step outside the room during that, or at any point, feel free to do so. We're going to talk about history of violent intruders. I have the term active killer up here just because I don't want us all to get tunnel vision on active shooter, right? That's typically what's happening right now. It's what's happening a lot in our media. That's what gets the most of media attention. But we see, somebody can come in with an edged weapon. They have a knife. Or the terrorists right now, a popular thing they're doing is taking a motor vehicle and running it into a large group of people, right? So all my examples, everything we're going to talk about today is active shooter, but don't get tunnel vision. Be thinking about all these other options as well. We're going to talk about lockdown, what we know it as, and what we need to do to change. Law enforcement's response to these incidents, faculty, staff, and student response, what it has been and what we need to do to change it, and then ALICE. So why do we do these different drills? Particularly I'm talking our K-12 schools. Fire drills, earthquake, tornado, why do we do them? Have awareness to be ready, right? To know what we're going to do in case one of these things happens, right? How often do we do fire drills in our K-12 schools? Monthly, right? Earthquake drills, typically I think they'll do them monthly or every 2-3 months. I don't think there's really a set standard. There might be, I could be wrong about that. Tornadoes, tsunami drills. Anybody ever done a tsunami drill? Yeah, right on. I grew up on the coast too. Okay, don't follow me in a tornado. I've never been in a tornado drill. I don't know what to do. And then lockdown drills. How often are we doing lockdown drills in our K-12 schools? There's no standard. Some schools I've heard are doing them about every 3 months, and then a lot of schools don't do them at all, okay? So I want to talk about fire drills for a minute here. So we do them every month in our K-12 schools, and here are some ways that we protect ourselves from fire. We have maximum occupancy for buildings, exit signs. We have carpet, the sheetrock, the ceiling tiles, everything we use to build our public buildings has to meet a certain fire code or a fire rating. We have fire extinguishers placed strategically all over in our buildings. They have to be checked monthly. They have to be serviced every 6 years. Does anybody know what this big thing is here? Every one of our major buildings that has a fire sprinkler system has something very similar to this. This controls these, okay? So it looks very complex and expensive, and it is. Okay, so these are all different ways that we protect ourselves and our kids from fire. So does anybody know the last time in the United States there was a death in a K-12 school due to a fire? A lot of people think in the last 10 years. Well, 1956 was the last time in the United States a student, faculty, staff, or guest died in a K-12 school due to a fire. Okay, let's look at shootings. In this top paragraph here, I have just where there's 5 or more deaths. Marysville, Washington, 14, there was 5 killed. Sandy Hook in 2012, 27 killed. We all remember that, it's substantial. Virginia Tech in 2007, there's 33. And then the bottom paragraph here is specifically in Oregon since 98. 2 dead, 23 injured. Springfield, Roseburg in 06, there was 1. 2015, the end of 2015, Umpqua Community College, we had 10, right? So why aren't we protecting ourselves and our kids from what's actually killing us and what the bigger threat is, okay? And to make note, what all happened yesterday morning in Kentucky, right? We had 2 more students killed, right? So be aware of this. Understand that I'm not saying we shouldn't put time, effort, and energy towards protecting ourselves from fire. That's not what I'm saying at all. But we need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves from what's actually killing us and killing our kids. So what is lockdown? Anybody do lockdown in your high school? And what did you do? Did you do drills? She was talking about basically these things. She was huddled in a corner, and then something that a lot of schools don't do is they were having them prepare to counter. They were going to throw items at the individual coming into the room. That's good. Does anybody know where lockdown comes from? A lot of people think it's the prisons. It's actually 1970s Los Angeles. The gang warfare, gangs start shooting at each other outside of these schools. In order to protect the students, faculty, and staff inside the buildings, the schools developed this plan that let's lock the exterior of the building, get the kids away from the doors and windows to protect them from stray bullets, and wait for the police to show up to take care of what was going on outside. Makes perfect sense, right? There's a good response plan, so that spread across the nation as what to do when there's firearms around schools. The problem is those firearms started coming into the schools, and the schools started actually being targeted and attacked, and we never changed our tactics. We never changed what we were doing. We stayed with this lockdown. Now understand, lockdown is a really good starting point. Okay? I'm not saying that it shouldn't be an option, but it can't be our only option, and here's why. Police response time, these are national averages. You look at Monmouth Police Department, they're going to be right here with about where these times are. The average emergency goes on for 3 to 5 minutes before somebody calls 911. Does anybody want to take a guess at why that is? That's exactly it. You're in shock and you don't think rationally to make that phone call. Because our bodies are designed for back when we lived in caves and my threat was from a big kitty, right? So I'd be walking down the trail, big cat jumps out in front of me. I don't have to think call 911 to get somebody there to help me. I have to either hit hard or run fast, right? So your mind goes into survival. When the emergency occurs, your frontal lobe shuts down. The way it was explained to me is at that point you're thinking with the intelligence level of a smart dog. So your frontal lobe shuts down, you're thinking with the midbrain, that survival portion of your brain. And it takes about 3 to 5 minutes before somebody ends up thinking, hey, we should call 911. So that call goes into 911. The call taker has to get that information, figure out what's going on, send that to the dispatcher. That process takes about 2 minutes from the point you call them until they start sending that out over the radio. Response time, this is basically drive time. So that's the point the officer gets the information over his radio until he's arriving on scene. It doesn't necessarily mean he's engaging people. It means he's pulling up and pushes the button on his computer that says I'm arriving. It's a total of 8 to 12 minutes. The average emergency goes on before law enforcement's on scene. So keep this 8 to 12 minutes in your mind for a little bit. Are police going to get there in time? Columbine, 1999, 11:19 a.m., 2 gunmen enter. At 12:08, the gunman commits suicide. That was a total of 49 minutes with 13 victims dead and 24 injured. They went back, did their investigation, and found out that these two were actively shooting at people for approximately 8.5 minutes. That's one person shot every 13 seconds. How many times is 13 seconds going to 8 to 12 minutes? I haven't actually done the math, I don't know. But it's entirely too many, right? Okay? There was a school resource officer that was on the campus at the time the shooting started, and it took him 7.5 minutes to get there. Virginia Tech, 2007, 9:42 a.m., the gunman enters Norris Hall. Total of 8 minutes. He was shooting with 30 victims dead and 17 wounded. That's one person shot every 10.2 seconds. Again, how many times is 10.2 going to 8 to 12 minutes? If you know what happened at Virginia Tech, this individual murdered a couple of people in a dormitory. The Virginia Tech Police Department knew about that. They had their tactical team, their SWAT team was already deployed at that building. They had all their kit on, their helmets and tactical gear. They had their homicide detectives there. All their patrol officers were at that building, had that building locked down. Okay? That building was 800 yards away from Norris Hall. When he started shooting, it took them 8 minutes to get there. Their tactical team was already deployed and it took them 8 minutes to get there. So what we learned, Columbine, the faculty, staff, and students, so if you look on the left there, they locked down and waited for the police. The police response in Columbine at the time, what law enforcement did in this situation was they set up a perimeter to contain what was going on, try to establish communications with the threat, and wait for the tactical teams to show up. That was the national standard. After Columbine, law enforcement realized that we don't have time to wait for our SWAT teams anymore. They take too long. Your average everyday patrol officer has to go in and stop what's going on. So after Columbine, the national response across the board changed, and law enforcement, depending on the size of your agency, the first 3 to 5 patrol officers that show up form an entry team and go towards the sound of the gunshots. Now I'm seeing that law enforcement's realizing that we still aren't getting there in time. And so I've seen policies in different departments that are telling their officers, if you show up by yourself, you make the decision whether or not you're going to go. Once you get a second police officer with you, you are going in. So if different departments have different policies, but that's kind of where it's going. They're trying to get there, right? Virginia Tech, the police advanced to the threat and neutralized it. The faculty, staff, and students locked down and waited for the police. What happened in Virginia Tech versus Columbine? We had more people die, right? The police are getting there as absolutely fast as they can. They can't do any more or get there any faster. We have to change what we're doing over here, right? What do? This is where Alice comes in. There's not a one-size-fits-all plan, and we don't want there to be. We just want to give you options, and you decide at that time what is best for you. So alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. It's not a chronological process. It's just a list of options for you. I'm going to talk about them individually here. Alert, this is how you learn about the incident. So you might see people running and screaming. You might see the gunman. Maybe you get a phone call or a text message from a friend or a coworker. It's also the way that you alert other people. So as you're running away from the building and people are standing there, you're yelling at them that there's a gunman in the building. Follow me. Come this way. Okay? Once you get out of the danger area, you're posting that on Facebook or whatever other social media avenue that you have to alert your friends and family to stay away from that area. We want you to dial 911, but don't do it immediately. Okay? I know I can text message with the best of you, but when my life is being threatened, right, in the frontal lobe and you lose your dexterity, you're going to have to stop to dial 911. We don't want you to do that. Get yourself out of the danger area and then make that phone call. If you were in Salem Hospital and you hear code white, 3rd floor hallway, code white, 3rd floor hallway, do you know what to do? So there's a federal agency that makes recommendations to hospitals. Their recommendation for active shooter is code white. How many people in that hospital are going to have no idea what's going on? Most all the patients, all the visitors, all the nurses that didn't read that memo, didn't go to that training. Same thing with all the doctors that didn't read the memo, didn't go to that training, or were sick that day, had the day off, or were newly hired, or the contractors that are in there working on something. There's going to be a whole lot of people in that building that have no idea that their life is being threatened. What if you're in Salem Hospital and you hear, gunman, 3rd floor hallway, there's gunman, 3rd floor hallway, come out over to the speaker system. Do you know what to do then? At least I'm not going 3rd floor hallway, right? I got that much information to work off of. So the point to this, we have to eliminate codes. We can't use codes. And there's a lot of literature, if you're interested, you can read up on it, that codes cause more of a delay because people are more apt to think that it's just for training, or no, this can't be real. Maybe I'm mistaken, maybe it's not code white, and it causes a delay in your response. So we want to eliminate codes. Another problem, that's just a recommendation. I've talked to people from Corvallis Hospital. They said, actually it's code silver at Corvallis. So you go to a different hospital, it's going to be something different, right? It's a major problem. Little story on alert. These are my little notes to tell a story. So there's a faculty member gave me permission to share her story. She worked at a university before she came here. They were giving a tour to some little kids. And as she was giving this tour, this young lady had walked by her and said it looked like she was wearing a bib. She had a white shirt on, and she had this kind of red bib-looking thing on her. So it was really strange. Went by, and the girl had that kind of 1,000-yard stare, really confusing. And so they went and saw somebody else that then appeared to have blood coming out of their neck. So they started, well, something bad's going on, and started seeing some law enforcement in the area. And so they took these kids into a building, but they didn't really know what was going on. Long story short, they loaded the kids up on the bus, sent them back. She went to go to her office, got to the building. It was locked, It normally isn't this time of day. So she knocked on the door. Somebody came and let her in, didn't say anything to her. She went to her office and started working. Come to find out later, there's an individual who was walking around campus, and as he would walk by people, he reached up with a razor blade and would cut them on the neck. So there was no alert. There was no breakdown of anything. Her building was in lockdown. All of her coworkers had barricaded themselves in a room, came and let her in, but nobody told her what was going on. So we have to alert people. We have to notify each other, and that is on you as much as us. So you have to tell each other, share that information with each other. Lockdown. So we're going to expand on this a little bit from what we talked about our high schools doing. So we're going to secure in place. That's a term I like using. Locking the doors, turn off the lights, hiding in the corner. And I don't mean all grouping together in a corner. What I mean by that is these killers are not tactical masters, okay? They don't understand a whole lot about tactics. So when they come into a room, they walk through that doorway and they're focused on the center of the room, okay? So be on the corners. Be here, right, as opposed to over there. Barricading entry points, preparing to evacuate, preparing to counter. We talked about that with somebody in there. They were getting pieces of balled up paper, right, preparing to throw them at somebody that came in the room, gathering weapons of opportunity. You can see here on the upper right, there's a whole lot of weapons of opportunity, right? So now what would a little thing of Elmer's glue do against somebody with a firearm? Well, does anybody do any shooting at all? Shooting sports? Right. So what does it take to shoot accurately? What do you have to do? A lot of focus, right? So focus meaning what? So you have to be able to see your sights, right? And be able to see your target. So sight alignment and target acquisition. Does breathing matter? Right? Breathing matters. What about how you're holding that weapon? That matters, right? Your trigger control, your trigger press. What about how you're standing? Does that matter? Right? Okay. So all these things come into play to shoot accurately. What does it take to send a text message? I can do it pretty well when I'm holding my breath, not a long one, but I can do it, right? I can be sitting, I can be laying down, whatever, okay? So if she's going to send a text message and I take a thing of Elmer's glue and I throw it in her face, is that going to prevent her from sending that text message for a second? Yeah, right? So I throw this thing in her face and it buys me half a second. Well, half a second when the person has a gun. But if I told you that you were going to be in a gunfight today and I could give you a half second head start, would you take it? I'd take every single one of those, right? So I throw the thing in Elmer's glue, and she throws a ruler, and somebody else throws a textbook. We've bought ourselves about a second and a half, right? This is from Harrison Ross' Twitter feed at Ohio State. Somebody was attacked, I believe it was an edge weapon, so they had barricaded their space there. A couple other options. They're using, it looks like an extension cord and wrapping around the handle like we have in the back of the room here. This, believe it or not, actually works. I didn't think it did until I tried it and saw that it does actually work. You take and wrap a belt around up here, belt or a backpack strap or the arm of your sweatshirt, whatever, and that'll help prevent the door from opening. You can slide a strap through here somehow, and then you want to try and stand off to the side. Now, obviously, this is a glass room, okay? I'm going to do my best to get out of here, but in a lot of our other classrooms where you're on the third floor and there's one doorway and it's not glass like this, it's actually walls, you can pretty well barricade yourself in there. Now, I was having a conversation with one of my neighbors. I have an alarm system on my home, and I always keep my doors locked, and he was talking to me about my alarm system, and he says, well, can you get onto your phone and turn your alarm on and off? And I said, yeah. He says, do you have to log into your alarm system? And I said, no, I just open the app and it's already logged in. And he said, so I could get your phone and turn your alarm off. And I said, well, you could, but my phone has a key, a code to get in when my phone's locked. And he said, so I could get your phone and enter the code, steal your code and then turn your alarm off, and then I can go break into your house and you wouldn't know. Yeah, that's absolutely true. You could do that. You could somehow find the code to get into my phone and then steal my phone and then turn off my alarm system and then go kick in my door. That's absolutely true. Somebody could do that. Or they could just skip all those steps and kick in your door, right? My house doesn't have to be impenetrable. It just has to be harder to break into than his, right? So understand these times that we talked about, the shooters know the police are coming. They know you have called and the police are coming. They know they have a limited amount of time to wreak as much damage as they can. So I don't have to make this door impenetrable. I just have to make it not worth him trying too long to get through it, right? Does that make sense to everybody? So this door opens out. Does stacking desk tables and chairs in front of it do any good? You bet I'm going to do it, right? If that's my only option, I'm going to stack as many desk tables and chairs in front of that as I can so that he gets that door open, now he's got to deal with those, right? So we're just buying ourselves time. Another option, my mother works at an elementary school, and this is what they have. They now, obviously, this just works for their doors. Might work for you, might not, but it hooks around the doorknobs there, and that door will close, but it doesn't latch. But that door is locked all the time, okay? So we all like having a door closed for the classroom so that it prevents the noise transmission and the draft and all those positive things, but we can't have doors locked all the time, right? It just doesn't make sense. So what they do is they have this locked all the time so you can constantly come and go through there, but even a 4-year-old kid, if something happens, can pull that off, close the door, and it's locked. Information, this is communicating a killer's location, direction in real time. This is an expansion of alert. So again, that's where you're posting it on whatever social media avenue that you want. You are calling your friends and family. You're sending them text messages. You're calling 911. You're telling 911 what you know. And 911 is relaying information back to you and telling you what else they have heard about the gunman or where they are or whatever. So we want that information going all directions. Countering. This is your last resort. Please understand, the university doesn't require you to do anything. If you want to get down under the desk tables and chairs, you're welcome to do that. This is just an option that we're telling you that you can do this if you need to. I'm going to show you this video here.
And our next guest says he has the answer. When confronted by a gunman, don't duck and hide, fight back. Joining us from a classroom in Burleson, Texas is incident response trainer Greg Crane. Good to see you, Greg. Now, I understand that your wife was a principal of a local school there in Burleson, Texas, and you asked her what she would do if a gunman intruded her school. She didn't know, and you said, let's come up with a program to deal with this, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the district here in Burleson does have an excellent emergency management procedures in place. We have outer security, we have inner security, we have SROs on campus, we wear IDs, but all these are just security measures. That they're not a foolproof standard that a bad guy cannot get in the building. So when I asked my wife, what would she do, she really didn't have an answer. So we felt the need to create a program that would address that hopefully small window of time when we have violence in the schools and before law enforcement can put a stop to it.
Right, and I understand that all 600 teachers in that school district have been trained in your method, but we've got a vast viewing audience right now. If you, Greg, could give us a little sample what teachers should do, a little demonstration, we'd really appreciate it.
All right, we can do that. Robin, you ready, sir?
Yep, no problem. Okay, that's attack control. All right, you better start getting ready to get to your next class. Put your books away. Get that sorted out. Get everything done. All right? Thanks very much.
Everybody sit down now. No! Shine! Control! Evaluation! Anybody hurt? Just... It'll be okay. Go on, use the shot. Okay,
Index,
shot.
index.
Index, safety guys. All right, that's really cool. Now, Greg, that worked very, very well, but I know that the kids were ready to, as soon as the person showed the gun, to throw the books at them. But in a regular school environment where kids are just may or may not be paying attention to what's happening in the front of the class, do you really think the kids are going to be so fast to throw their books at somebody who just walked in the room?
Well, that's where mental preparation comes in, Steve. You know, we want to have, you have to be prepared.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan, and then you have to rehearse that plan.
Right.
And if the schools have done that, they'll be ready.
So you say use books, use monitors, use a computer, scissors, whatever you have. Toss it at the gun.
Brian, anything that we can have to create a distraction and give us time to put our plan in place. We've seen that hiding under desks, that's not a recipe for success. We've seen that being allowed to be lined up on the blackboard is not a recipe for success. We want to give our students a chance to survive.
You know what, Greg, I think this is a great program because, as you said, this is all about practicing this and putting it into motion when, in fact, this rare incident might happen. I commend you on this program, and hopefully other school districts across the country will do it as well. Good to see you this morning. Thanks a lot, Greg.
So that was Greg Crane. He was the original creator of Alice back from 2001. Do I agree with the strategy of not sitting in one spot? Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying that countering is always the best option. If a shooter comes in that door over there, I'm going out this one. There's no reason for me to try to close that distance, right? But if I am in a corner and I have no other option but to fight back, that's what I'm going to do. I was really lucky to have Greg Crane in the back of the classroom. He was evaluating the instructor that was there. Greg and his right-hand man, Sean, were there, and after they played this video, Greg told us that the interview stopped and he went out into the hallway, and his gunman was on the ground. They were calling an ambulance for him because one of the students had frisbeed a book and caught him in the side of the head and actually sent him to the hospital. He said that the night before, they had never done a scenario like this. He was actually kind of nervous about how it was going to go. He said the night before he met up with the class, gave them about 15 minutes of instruction, told them the only thing you can't throw is scissors. What it looked like, I think 1 or 2 people ended up getting shot before they were able to disarm that gunman and ended up sending the gunman to the hospital, right? Now he says that he doesn't let people throw textbooks either because he doesn't like being sued, but stress in the OODA loop. So I want to talk about the OODA loop a little bit. Has anybody ever heard of that? So OODA loop, this is basically your decision-making process. So I want to pick my little pointer deal up here off the counter. Before I do that, I have to go through an OODA loop, okay? So first I have to observe it. I see where it is. I orient to it. That doesn't mean I'm orienting my body. That means my mind is orienting to it. My mind is processing where it is, how far away it is, and whether I'm going to have to reach out, if I'm going to have to lean in to get it, right? My mind knows how long my arms are, and then decide what I'm going to do. Am I going to reach over, grab it? Am I going to kick the bottom of the desk and grab it out of the air like some 007 thing? And then I'm going to act on it. The fastest humanly possible to do this process is 0.52 seconds, okay? That is the record, 0.52 seconds to be able to make a decision on what you're going to do. When we talk about driving in a motor vehicle, if you're driving along and you're expecting to have to stop, you're expecting something to step out in front of you, this process is going to take you a little over 0.7 seconds, okay? So what that looks like, another example of it, I'm driving down the road and a deer steps out in front of me. Before I pull my foot off of the accelerator and start applying it to the brake, I have to go through an OODA loop, okay? Observe. There's a deer in my lane of travel. Orient to it. My mind has to process that I'm in a motor vehicle and Bambi is in my lane of travel and I need to do something. Decide what I'm going to do. Am I going to swerve, apply the brakes, have a new hood ornament, and then I act on it, okay? The fastest humanly possible is 0.52 seconds. That record was not set by a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret or some fireman or anything like that. It was set by a 52-year-old retired stripper. Okay? Now, why is that important? That's important because it doesn't matter who you are, you can't train yourself to be faster than that. Okay? 0.52 seconds is the fastest that we can do this process. So, if she has a gun and she's about to shoot me and I throw something in her face, she has to observe, orient, decide, and act, right? I throw something in her face, she has to go through an OODA loop. You throw something in her face, go through another OODA loop. Remember how we were talking about this? I throw the Elmer's glue, somebody else throws a ruler, somebody frisbees a textbook, okay? And what happens is when you have all these objects flying at your face, you can't process. You get stuck between observe and orient. It's called reversing the O's. See that Elmer's glue coming at you? You're observing it, you're starting to orient, decide what to do, and then a book comes flying at you. You then revert back to observe, move to orient, somebody throws something else, and you get stuck back and forth. You don't have the ability to decide and act. Okay, so that's where we want, if you have no other option, for you all to throw things, yell and scream, and it's going to cause them to delay a little bit. A couple of things, police miss 80% of their shots during dynamic events. Only 10% of gunshot wounds are lethal. So in the United States, with our emergency services and the medical technology that we have, your likelihood of surviving a gunshot wound is very high, okay? Why I tell you that is if you're in a situation like this and you get shot, that doesn't mean you're dead. 90% of the time you're going to survive that. The way it was explained to me is if you get shot and you realize you've been shot, that means you're going to survive it. Don't give up. And action is faster than reaction, which is just an interesting way of explaining this OODA loop. That if I throw something, I'm going to cause them to revert back to observe, and they're going to be reacting to it, right? Evacuate. So this is your first option. In this situation, this is our first recommendation. What we want you to do is try and get yourself out of the danger area as fast as you can. This isn't a fire drill, okay? You're not lining up behind a kindergarten teacher at the door. You're getting out of this building as absolutely fast as you can. You're running. Leave the danger area as quickly as you can. If your vehicle's in a danger area, don't use it. Use vehicles or other objects as cover and concealment. Run in a zigzag. So if I was going to stand here and y'all were going to throw a water balloon at me and I wasn't going to move, would you be able to hit me? More than likely, right? What if I was moving forward to back? Does that change things for you a little bit? Little, but it'd probably still be able to hit me, right? What if, and I'm not going to dance around like a fool up here in front of you, but what if I was moving unpredictably laterally? Does that change things? It makes it much more difficult for you to hit me, right? Okay? I shoot all the time. It's one of my pastimes that I enjoy. I cannot hit a moving target. It's extremely difficult. Okay? So running in a zigzag, unpredictably lateral, is going to increase your likelihood of not being shot. Roosevelt said, in any moment of decision, the best thing to do is the right thing, the next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing to do is nothing. I want to do a little test, and this isn't the best room for it, but I'm going to start counting, and I want you all to process yourself standing up and running out of this room. And process, because it's mental, nobody stand up and run. Okay? For the sake of argument, you can't use either one of these exterior doors of the room, and you can't use these front doors here. Okay? When I start counting, I just want you to think about yourself and everybody else getting up and getting out of this room, out of this building as fast as you can. I don't care how you go, if you go around that way, if you go up on the second floor and down to the other side, but I want you all just to process that. Okay, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Is anybody still in the building? Anybody? Where were you out of the building at approximately when I was counting? Like 7? Okay. And did you just go out and yeah? Okay. What about anybody else? Where were you approximately when I was counting? 10? Okay. You didn't know how to get out because you haven't been in this building? Sorry? Sure. Well, and she said she hadn't been in this building before, so she didn't know the layout. Okay. So just keep that in the back of your mind, and let's just, for the sake of argument, it was a bigger building, and you didn't run very fast, and you didn't know your way out, and let's say it took you 40 seconds to get out of a building, okay? This is Columbine Library. Basically what happened at Columbine, gunmen came in, started shooting people. They were in this hallway up here. There's a staff member by the name of Patty Nielsen that was out here. And she saw the gunmen start shooting people. Her and a couple of students initially ran back in here through this little hallway and into the library and got down under the desk tables and chairs. Eventually, the gunmen came in here, and then these green and yellow arrows are kind of their path through here. So they come in, and they eventually go around in here and kill most of the people in the library. So you know, let's talk about, just so you understand the map a little bit, this bay of windows right here is you'll probably recognize from this photograph if you've ever seen it, where they were pulling this individual. He was shot in the head and actually survived. So that was right in here. This is a doorway. This is a hallway. Just out of view here is outside. Break room, AV, video room. So these are all different options and places to hide. So keep this map in your mind, and we're going to listen to this 911 call that Patty Nielsen placed after she initially ran back in here and got down under a desk.
Jefferson County 911. Yes, I am a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun. He has shot out a window. I believe one. I've been Columbine High School. I don't know what's in my shoulder. If it was just a rough bullet. Okay, has anybody been injured, ma'am? Yes. Okay. Yes. And the school is in a panic. And I'm in the library. I've got students down under the table, kids. Heads under the table. Kids are screaming. Some of the teachers are, trying to take control. We need police here. Okay, we're getting them there. Police here. Who is the student, ma'am? I do not know who the student is. Okay. I saw a student outside. I was in Holden. Oh, dear God. Okay. I was on Holden. I saw a gun. I said, what's going on out there? And he said, oh, it's probably something else. It's probably a joke. I said, well, I don't think that's a good idea. And I went walking outside. I could see what was going on. He turned the gun straight at us and shot. And my God, the window went out. And the kid standing there with me, I think he got hit. Okay. Something in my shoulder. Okay. We've got help on the way, ma'am. Okay. Okay. Oh, God. Stay in the line with me. Oh, God. Kids, just stay down. Do we know where he's at? I'm sorry? Do we know where he's at? Okay. I'm in the library. He's upstairs. He's right outside of here. He's outside? He's outside of this hall. Outside of a hall or outside? This hall. Okay. There are alarms and things going off. There's smoke. My God, smoke is like coming into this room. Okay. I've got the kids under the table here. I don't know what's happening in the rest of the building. There's also like smoke in the door, but I don't know. I'm sure someone has to be calling 911 to fight. Yes, we've got a lot of people on. Okay. I just want you to stay in the line with me. We need to know what's going on. Okay. Okay. I am on the floor. Okay. You've got the kids there. And I've got every student in this library on the floor. You better stay on the floor. Is there any way you can lock the doors? Smoke is coming in from out there, and I'm a little afraid. The gun is right outside the library door. Okay. I don't think I'm going to go out there. Okay. You're at Columbine High School. I got 3 children. Okay. We got it. Okay. We're not going to go to the door to shut the door. Okay. I've got the kids on the floor. I got all the kids in the library on the floor. We have paramedics, we have fire, and we have police en route. Okay, sir? Okay. Okay. Yes. I don't know. I can't believe he's not out of bullets. He just keeps shooting and shooting and shooting. Okay. Yeah, we've got a police officer on scene. I thought it was. Okay, just try and keep the kids in the library calm. Yeah. Is there any way you can block the door so no one can get in? I do not. Okay. I guess I can try to go, but he's right outside that door. I'm afraid to go to the door. That's okay. That's where he is. I'm not afraid to go there. Okay. That's okay. Okay. I told the kids to get on the floor. I told them to get under the table. All of the children are on the floor under the table. Yeah, they're all under the tables. Okay. And as long as we can just try and keep... No one's saying a word. Okay, as long as we can keep everyone there as calm as we can. I hear some yelling out there going on right now. Yeah, we've got alarms going off now as well. Yeah, there's alarms. This room is filled with smoke. Okay. Okay. Keep everyone low to the floor. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's up. Okay. Everyone stay on the floor. Stay on the floor. Stay under the table. Okay. I don't know. Okay. I know. I don't know. I said, what is that kid got? He was outside at the time, and I was on call duty. Oh God. And he was crying. He was like, woo, woo, woo. I know. The things that are being shut off. I do not know who the student was. I don't even think I saw him. He was wearing black. He didn't look very large. Male student. He was out there shooting. It looked like he was climbing out and shooting. And somebody, I said, what is that? I said, what's going on? He said, it's a tap gun. It's probably the video production. You know, they do these video productions. And the kids, they say, well, that's not, you know, a play gun, a real gun. I was going out there to say no. And I went, what? Oh my God, that was really close. That was okay.
What's your name, ma'am? Patty?
Showing everybody get up right now. He's in the library. He's showing everybody get up right now.
Okay.
He's in the library. I have him in the library shooting at students with a lady that I have in the library on the phone.
Okay, try and keep as many people down as you can.
Patty Nielsen survived Columbine. She was injured. She had some glass shrapnel on her shoulder. You heard a couple of times there that she said, something's in my shoulder. I don't know if it's glass or what. It was glass from a broken window. Beyond that, she wasn't injured. I watched an interview that she gave after Columbine, and she explained that she was under a desk, and one of the gunmen came and actually walked around the desk she was under. She said, I didn't look up at him. If he didn't see me, I don't know how. I don't know why he didn't shoot me. But she did survive. What did Patty do to protect the students? Get your heads back down under the tables. Call 911. Is that what you're going to say? Call 911, right? So those are things she did to protect the students. Did Patty Nielsen do the right thing? And before we answer this, I want to let you know that I think that Patty Nielsen is a hero. And if I am ever put in a situation half as bad as that, I hope that I can conduct myself half as well as she did. So hindsight is 20/20, and it's difficult to look back on something that somebody did, right, and question it. But it's important when we have this many people die that we look back and see if we can improve those numbers at all, right? And that's why I preface this by saying that I think that Patty Nielsen is a hero, and she conducted herself extremely well. But hindsight being 20/20, what could we have done? What about go out right here? We knew the gunmen were up here. Why didn't we go out here? Why didn't they do that?
They were trained to just hide under desks.
Because we told you to get under the desk, tables, and chairs, and somebody else will show up and save you. We trained them to get under those desk, tables, and chairs, and most of them died because of it. And it continues to happen. You are told, get under the desk, tables, and chairs, and it will be okay. It's not. You have to get out of there. They knew the gunmen were up here. They were in here. They knew they could immediately be outside. Okay? How long do you think it would take all of them to get out there? It took us 40 seconds, right? After all the, we're don't run very fast, we're confused, can't get out of the building. 40 seconds. I guarantee you that they could have all been out of that building with well under a minute. Okay? They had 4 minutes and 36 seconds to evacuate that room and didn't do it because we trained them not to. Why didn't the dispatcher ask if they could get out? She was trained to do the exact same thing, lockdown. Get under the desk, tables, and chairs and wait for the police department to show up. The police department doesn't get there in time. We've already talked about that, right? We have to change what we're doing here, okay? Basically, they didn't know if I run out that door, I might run into another shooter. Is that possible? Absolutely. There were 2 gunmen at Columbine. These active killers have an accomplice, I think it's approximately 1% of the time. Is that enough for me to worry about? You bet. Okay, as I am leaving that building, that's one of the things I'm going to be thinking about. If this room was on fire, would I stay in here for fear that there might be fire in the hallway? I'm going to choose to run, right? And I already talked about running in a zigzag, And I know how hard it is to hit somebody when they're moving. It's not like in the movies. Okay, it's extremely hard to shoot somebody when they're moving. I know that, so I'm going to risk and evacuate. That's going to be my first option, if at all possible, is to evacuate. So I come back from the training, and my daughter, she was 7 years old at the time. She goes to a local school, and I was thinking, holy cow, we're really doing something wrong here. We've got to we got to change things. I want to know what my daughter's doing. So I get with my daughter, and I said, hey, what kind of drills do you do at school? And I presented it to her exactly the same way I'm presenting it to you guys. So what kind of drills do you do at school? So we talked about the different drills. We talked about fire drill and why we do them, and she walked me through what she does in her classroom during a fire drill, and we talked about stop, drop, and roll and all that, and we talked about earthquake and cover and hold on. And I said, do you do any other kind of drills? And she says, well, sometimes we do a lockdown drill. And I said, well, what's a lockdown drill? And she says, oh, that's where we all get in the closet where we put our backpacks. And she's like, Dad, it's not any fun because you have to get in there really tight with everybody and you can't say anything, you have to be really quiet. She's like, it's not any fun. I was like, really? Why do you do that? And she says, well, because there's a bad guy the police are trying to catch and he wants to hurt us. Okay. And I said, well, what are you supposed to do if that bad guy comes in your classroom? She says, we're supposed to stay really quiet and don't move. And I said, no, you don't understand. What if that bad guy comes over and he opens the door of that closet that you're in and he points a weapon at you? And she says, Dad, there's no door in the closet. Stick with me, kid. Okay, what do you do if you're in that closet and that man steps in front of the closet and he points a weapon at you? She said, we're supposed to stay really quiet and don't move. You kidding me? Okay, I'm pretty good at controlling my emotions, but I was pretty upset, right? So I said, I don't care what your principal, your teacher, or anybody has told you to do. In that situation, what do you think you should do? I saw my daughter's little wheels turning for a minute, and she said, well, I should run. I said, yeah, you should run. She says, but Dad, what if there's another bad guy at the door, right? That's exactly right. That was her first thing. What if there's another bad guy? And I said, I don't know. What are you going to do? And she says, can I run into the next classroom? I don't know. Can you? And my daughter's school is a force protection nightmare, so they have these big, silly accordion doors that separate the classrooms. So if you gain entry into one of the classrooms, you can access the entire wing. And also, they have a common bathroom, so you can go through the bathroom. And she says, well, I can go through the big door, or I can go through the bathroom. Okay, what if there's a bad guy in that classroom? She says, I'll keep running to the next classroom. I said, what if there's a bad guy in that classroom? She says, I'll keep running to the next one. So what if there's a bad guy in that classroom? She says, I can't run any further. The office is there. There's no door. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And she says, can I go out the window? I don't know. Can you? And she says, yeah, I can fit out a window. So my daughter, her instincts would have taken her out the window and avoided all of that. But we didn't allow her instincts to take over. We kept her in a closet to get shot. We taught her to stand there in a closet and get shot when somebody's pointing a weapon at you. That's what we're teaching them to do. We've got to get away from that. We have to allow people to make their own decision and move. I had this conversation a couple of weeks later. A faculty member from here at Western came up to me and said, hey, you don't know this, but my son goes to the same school as your daughter, about a year younger. And I had the exact same conversation, and it went exactly the same way. I asked him, what do you do if somebody pointed a weapon at him while he's standing in the closet? And he said, I wouldn't move, we're not supposed to. She said, I had to pull my car over on the highway because I started crying. And she said, I told him, it's okay to run, you can run. So let's see, this is Virginia Tech. This is the hallway there. It's just like any of our buildings. You have schools across the country. You have classrooms and offices on either side. Basically what happened, gunmen came in, killed one individual in the hallway, went into room 206. They all got down under the desk, tables, and chairs. Out of the 14 people in there, 10 were killed, 2 were wounded. He then went into room 211, 19 people present, 12 were killed, 6 were wounded. They did the same thing, got down under the desk, tables, and chairs. He went into room 207. He killed 5 people and wounded 6 of them. He left. They barricaded the door. He wasn't able to gain entry again. And you can see that their numbers got a little better, right? Room 205 immediately barricaded their classroom, and nobody was killed or wounded. In room 204, out of the 19 people in there, They barricaded the door and jumped out the second-story window. 2 of them were killed, and 3 of them were wounded. The 2 that were killed is Dr. Lviv Lebrescu and his student aide. They were physically holding the door closed with their bodies and allowed everybody else, bought them the time to be able to get out the window. Now, I'm not saying that I expect this from anybody, okay? But you can see the people that were proactive, that took little measures, they barricaded the doors, okay? That's not that difficult. You can see how much better their numbers are, only 2 dead as opposed to the people that got down under the desk, tables, and chairs. 28 of them were killed. And if you need to do a biography or something on somebody, Dr. Lviv Lebrescu is a concentration camp survivor from World War II. It's a really fascinating story on him. The Virginia Tech shooter, before the 2 days before the shooting, was seen at a gun range with targets laid up on either side of the ground, and he was seen walking between them, shooting at them like this. Why was he doing that? He was practicing, because he knew that we taught you to get down under the desk, tables, and chairs, and all he had to do was walk down the rows and shoot at you, because that's what you were going to do, because we have trained you to do that. He knew he wasn't going to have to do anything other than that. When you're evacuating, keep your empty hands visible. What if we counter? We fight back, and now there's a weapon there on the ground. What do we do with it? I'm going to give you some options. I will tell you that you don't want to have it in your hand when the police officer comes around the corner. It's not like you see on TV where they come around and they yell, halt, freeze, whatever. In those situations, they're trained to go around the corner, see somebody that they believe is a threat, and start shooting at them. Okay, so you don't want it in your hands. A lot of people, they won't feel comfortable leaving it there, so they want to take it with them. If you want to do that, that's fine, but don't carry it in your hands. What can we do to make that less threatening as we're leaving with it? Putting it in a trash can, right? We have trash cans in all of our rooms. Scoop that weapon into a trash can. Scoop it into a backpack. You can carry it out that way and give it to a police officer. It's not threatening. If you're not comfortable taking that firearm with you, that's completely fine. Have somebody sit on it, throw a backpack on it, tip the podium over on it, kick it under something, put a trash can on top of it, whatever. So there's a couple of options for you. If you want to take it with you, make sure that you don't have it in your hands. If you want to leave it there, you're welcome to do that too. Tell the police where the killer is. Don't do anything that can reasonably be perceived as threatening. Don't run at the police, but above all, just run away from the danger. Police, they might point weapons at you. It might be a dynamic entry, which means that they're breaking windows and flashbang grenades and smoke grenades and yelling and screaming. It's extremely loud and disorienting, or it might be very quiet. They might be sneaking down the hallway. They might yell at you or whisper to you. They're going to move past hurt and injured people. I'm sure that you can all do the math. It's as cold-hearted as it is. If the police officer's job is to go in and get injured people and take them out to the ambulance, they're not going to be able to keep up, right? Police officers are trained in those situations to push injured people out of the way and continue towards the sound of the gunshots. They might handcuff you, might ask you questions, may tell you to go away, evacuate another area, or they may tell you to come at them and get on the ground. This isn't something the university's developed, and we're hoping it catches on. This is now the standard. This is best practice. In 2008, the Department of Homeland Security came out with their 3 outs program. Get out, hide out, take out. What do you suppose get out is? Evacuate, right? Hide out is lock down, securing in place, and take out is what? Countering. International Association of Chiefs of Police in 2009 said that schools can't have a one-size-fits-all plan. Teachers need to choose to evacuate or lock down. We have to authorize decisions to be made. One of the problems that we have right now is that there are still schools with teachers, and during these situations, a teacher's job is to call the office, tell the office what's going on so the office can call 911. That should not be the first step, okay? We have to authorize these teachers to make a decision what's best for their classroom. If we were in a K-12 school and there was a gunman on the second floor of this building, most K-12 schools, their their policies are that you and I all go into lockdown. What would the best thing for us be? Go out the door, right? Get out the door. NYPD did their big active shooter study, and they came out with evacuate, hide, take action. Exact same thing as Alice. State of Alabama in 2013 specifically names Alice and run, hide, fight. Run, hide, fight's pretty popular in Marion County. My wife worked for the Marion County Courthouse for a while, and that's what she was taught over there. Some other states that specifically endorse Alice. Ohio Attorney General and Safety Task Force in June 2013. They said lockdown does not mean a standalone defense strategy. People need to evacuate, barricade, or counter. The U.S. Department of Education in June 2013 said this has to be the end of lockdown as an only response plan. A lot of our K-12 schools are outside of the U.S. Department of Education's recommendations with that. If you have kids, here's a couple of books written in partnership with Alice. I'm Not Scared, I'm Prepared. It uses that age-appropriate language to kind of talk about what to do in the event your school is attacked. The anthill disaster is more of a, so the little ant, he goes to the anthill school, and then a human comes over and stomps on the anthill, and now he's scared to go back to the anthill school. And that's kind of how to, it's more of a post-disaster book. But if you have children, what if there's more than one shooter? So these are questions that I normally get asked. We already kind of addressed that. It's not very likely, but it is certainly something that should be in the back of your mind. I'm not telling you that you have to evacuate. If you're afraid that there's a gunman waiting outside for you, don't leave, okay? I'm going to choose to go. I'm going to choose to run, but it's up to you. How to account for those who left? That's oftentimes a question we get asked if we have people in here from K-12 schools and the reunification process. If anybody's interested, we can talk about that. Small children aren't capable. That's oftentimes one of the biggest problems that we have, and one of the reasons that a lot of K-12 schools, and particularly elementary schools, aren't getting on board with this, because they say kids aren't capable of this. Now, I will tell you that my 10-year-old daughter, my 7-year-old, when she was 7, absolutely I did not teach her counter, right? That's unrealistic to tell a 10-year-old, even with a group of them, they don't have the physical capabilities to overtake a gunman, okay? Where we say that comes into play is more like 7th or 8th grade, kind of the end of middle school is where we want to start incorporating the counter portion of things. But my daughter, being especially my daughter, okay, she has my genes, she's not a very big person, okay, she's a tough target to hit when she's moving. Get the kids moving, okay, we shouldn't put them in a corner. In Sandy Hook, basically what happened, the gunman went back and forth between these two classrooms, and the kids and the staff did what they were supposed to. They got into the corner and waited for somebody else. He basically went back and forth between those two classrooms and just shot the kids that were in the corner. At one point, he ran out of ammunition. A little kid that grew up around firearms recognized that that weapon was unloaded, could not fire. He stood up, he yelled run, and 4 of his classmates followed him. They ran right past the shooter, out the front door and into the neighborhood, and actually ran to the fire department. Do you think they were trained to do any of this? They ran to the volunteer fire department because nobody called 911 yet. There wasn't anybody there. They weren't able to get in or get anybody's attention, so they continued and ran further into the neighborhood. And some of you may have heard on the news where about 2.5 hours after the initial incident occurred, they found the 5 kids out in the neighborhood. It was those 5 kids. They just ran out into the neighborhood and sat down on a curb until somebody came and found them. They weren't trained to do that, but at 6 years old, they're smart enough to know what to do and protect themselves. Special education is not addressed. So with the elementary schools or special education, that's where we need to have those conversations beforehand and work on hardening those facilities and figuring out how to evacuate those people. What might be right for one person might not be right for another. Okay? The fact that I'm 33 years old, I've got short legs, I'm wearing an extra 30 pounds of equipment, running might not be my best option, right? I might choose to stay and try and barricade. Go ahead. Right, so she's saying what if the entire school is special education and there's no other exits except the front door of the classroom? That's where we have to work on hardening those facilities and figuring out ways to be able to secure that and buy ourselves enough time for law enforcement to show up. right? So we want to work on a large deadbolt system. We want to have filing cabinets close to those doors so you can tip a filing cabinet over. That's a pretty formidable piece of equipment to put on the other side of a door, right? To be able to do that and harden those facilities to buy ourselves time. I get, questions about, or from people like that, well, what do I do if I don't have time? If I don't have time to react, to fortify that location and protect all the kids. Grab as many of them as you can and run. There's no sense in staying there with 5 of them when you could have got them out, right? I sat through a day and a half of what y'all are sitting through right now, and it made sense. I liked it. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm on board, but does it really work, right? I mean, I want to see this stuff actually work. So in this training that I was at, we had police officers, people from universities, we had superintendents, there was elementary school teachers, tactical team guys, there was some facility maintenance people from a high school, and there's 31 of us in this class. And so sat through a day and a half of it. Yeah, I like it, it works, but does it really work? So they said, now you get to try, okay? And since we've been sued before, you don't get to throw books, and they handed us these little squishy balls that we could throw. And they got an airsoft gun, and they said, you get to do exactly what we're teaching our kids to do right now. You get to lock down, you cannot run, and you cannot fight back. And then they said, who in here has the least amount of firearms training in the room? And it ended up being this little elementary school teacher, sweetest woman I've ever met in my life. She'd never touched a firearm before. Okay, and they said, okay, great, you're our shooter. They gave her about 60 seconds of instruction, said, here's the dangerous end, this is how you pull the trigger and kill people, ready, go. And she came into the classroom, we all got down under the desk, tables, and chairs, tried to hide, whatever. She killed 30 of the 31 of us. One person hid in the closet she didn't find. They then found the top tactically trained guy in the class, which was a commander of that county's SWAT team. So I think we can all understand they didn't have to give him a lot of instruction on this airsoft gun, right? And they said, now institute Alice, and a SWAT team member is going to come in and try and kill all of you. So he left, we all got doing our class, continuing on. He came in, we started throwing objects at him. Some people ran, some people got down, some people attacked him. He ended up shooting one guy in the arm. Well, that kind of hurt his feelings, right? He's like, hold on. I can do better than that. Let's try again. And we had fun, so like, yeah, let's do it again. Go ahead. So he leaves. We start doing our class again. He threw us off. He came in a different door. Some people got down. Some people ran. Some people attacked him. And he ended up getting one guy in the leg. Okay? So then, a little bit later, like, okay, everybody can calm down, relax. And so we're kind of debriefing. And then from the room, a guy picks up, he's just standing over there next to the airsoft gun. He picks it up, shoots the instructor in the side of the head. Instructor falls, he turns it on us. So it's exactly that. They're in the classroom, right? So I had the deer in the headlights look, but I had something in my hand and I threw it, and I stood up and everybody attacked him, and he ended up, so he killed the instructor and he got one other person. It was a kind of a lower abdominal wound. So that's where, like we were talking about, or Greg Crane in the video, like having that mental preparation, right? So I was able to throw that object because I'd already thought of it. Rally point could be a secondary attack. Again, we have a lot of questions with K-12 schools that, well, if we have all of our kids meet in one location, that could be attacked. Absolutely, that's potential. We need to worry about that. If one of the Monmouth Independent schools was attacked right now, or the university was, what law enforcement agencies are going to be responding to that? Monmouth, of course, right? Who else? Independence, Dallas Police Department, the Sheriff's Office, Polk County, right? Who else is coming? State Police. Who else is coming? We're going to be there.
Benton County?
You think Benton County's going to send people? You bet. Pretty much every law enforcement agency in 60 miles is going to have anybody that they have available and send them over here. It's going to take 8 to 12 minutes for anybody to get here, but after about 25 minutes, we're going to have more cops in this town and we know what to do with, right? So that's where law enforcement has those plans in place, where we take those responding units and we divert them to the rally points to help secure that and assist with the reunification process. If it's something that law enforcement fears is a threat to here, then we will probably send out a WOU alert message, if you're familiar with that. Is everybody signed up and get those? Please don't turn them off. We try not to inundate you with silly weather updates and bother you all the time or give you, hey, it's President Fuller's birthday. If you see him, give him a shout out, right? We try to just test it very rarely so we know it works. So keep an eye, have your WOU alert on your phone so you can get text messages or phone calls from that, emails. And that will, if you feel like you're in danger though, remove yourself from that situation, right? If it's a lone gunman and law enforcement is confident that the situation is contained to one of those schools, it's probably not going to affect a whole lot going on here, but it might. So the question is that he had bombs set up inside and was counting on everybody leaving. So as everybody funneled out the one exit, he was going to shoot them coming out that one exit. Right. So again, I can only deal with the threat that I know exists at the time. So that bomb goes off at that exit, I'm going to go for another exit. Now, again, it's up to you. If you want to stay inside that building, you can do that. You can make that decision. I'm going to risk moving because I know how hard it is to hit moving people. So I'm going to risk running out that doorway. And so that's, yeah, again, it's your decision. You can try and barricade. You can try and to run. You can counter, right? So it's those options, and you decide what you want to do with it. People evacuating will disrupt a police response. How long did it take us to get out of the building? 10 seconds, right? Ended up being 40, just for argument's sake. Are we going to disrupt a police response? No. We're going to be long gone before law enforcement's on their way. Counter strategies don't work. Again, I told you the story of that tactical team member that could only shoot one person each time he tried, right? So he went through the same training that we did. He knew what we were going to do. He got to practice, and he still couldn't kill more than one or two people. And so that answers, what if the shooter's Alice trained? And if you don't believe me, you can come to one of our scenarios. They take about 90 minutes, the same as this. If you're interested in signing up for it, we use a Nerf gun and come in, and it's fully automatic, so it's a lot of fun. And we shoot at you, and you practice countering and working as a team. It's a lot of fun. If you're interested in doing that, it doesn't cost anything. You're welcome to come to that. Just sign up for it. Just send me an email and ask me to forward you the information. So I appreciate everybody being here. Thanks for the questions. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for coming.